Hey everyone, I am applying to be a instructor for Stanford Code in Place, and they want a 5-minute teaching demo. This looks like a fun, quick little lesson. It will be under 5 minutes. If you have any kids that are just getting started at the very basics of programming, have a watch and see if you would like me as your tutor. So I'm going to hit my stopwatch here and try to deliver a 5-minute lesson that's not scripted. I have an outline in front of me, but let's just try to do it off the cuff. Okay, here we go. So how much would you weigh on Mars? The answer is 37.8% of what you would weigh on Earth. So if you really wanted to figure that value out, we could do it with a calculator. So let's just say something like my weight, 170 pounds, times 0.378 equals 64.24 pounds. But let's face it, calculators are extremely boring and old-fashioned. We want a Python program that will automatically calculate this specific function when we type in a number. So we're going to hop into the Python editor and start messing around with that. So goodbye calculator, hello Python. So how do we want to start off with our program? It's going to be a pretty short one, but the same functionality is done over and over through all kinds of programs. It's worth taking a look at. So maybe where I might start is actually on the terminal. Like, I know we want the user to type something in, so let's try input. Input is a function that lets you type in a value and get what the user typed in into a variable. So if we say something like, how much do you weigh? And execute this statement, we will get whatever you put in to input is going to be your prompt, and whatever you type in and press enter, you'll get that value back. And I can tell you from those quotes around it that this value has the type of string. So strings are variables that contain text. We can't multiply them, so we're going to have to do one more step before we can do our math to calculate how much you weigh on Mars, which is convert this string into a numerical value or a floating point value. We could use an integer, but think about why that might not work out. For example, if someone typed in 120.5 pounds, an integer would lose that 0.5 or not correctly convert into a number at all. So using a floating point value, we can put in any fractional number that someone types in. So now I think we have all the parts. Let's type in our program. So what we first want to do is maybe something like Earth weight, just coming up with a variable name there, equals inputs. How much do you weigh? Okay, so now Earth weight is going to be a variable that contains that string we were talking about. Now we want to convert this into a numerical value. So we might say something like Earth weight floats. You could spell it out if you want. They're not charging by the letter. So what we'll use here is the float function to convert Earth weights into a floating point value. So if we wanted, we can now try this program out. And what would I put in? Something like 120. And it doesn't show anything because we didn't add any print statements. But what we can do is look at the value of this variable, Earth weight float. And we can see now it says 120.0. So seeing that it has a decimal point there, it's definitely been converted into a floating point number, and we can proceed. So now what we might want to put is something that says a new variable for the Mars weights. And that's going to equal the Earth weight float times that value we put in originally, which is, I'm going to get it wrong, 0.348. How'd I do? Let's check the notes. 378. See? This is why we keep documentation handy. Okay, so now by the laws of multiplication, this should be our new value. So finally, we want to display this answer to the user with a quick and easy print statement. On Mars, you would weigh, and don't forget to put a space inside there. Actually, I don't think we need to. I think the comma is going to serve as that inside our print statement here. So Mars weight And now if we run this whole program at once, we can say something like, how much do you weigh? 120. Well, let me put in a 160, see if it gets the same number as my calculator, right? 60.48. Okay, so that's taking in a number, changing its type, and computing the result there. So what else? A couple of notes I have here. I think maybe if I were to criticize this program, I might want to move the float conversion into the earth weight variable from the very beginning. So the way I might do that is, instead of even having an earth weight float variable at all, we could comment this line out while we're thinking about it and just call float directly on the contents of input. Now that means we need to rename the variable used here, but this means that this intermediate variable isn't created at all, and we're just calling the float function with whatever input returns. So you don't have to do that. I'm going to reverse those changes here. If you think this is more clear, it's a great place to start. Okay, so what if someone types in something that's not a floating point number? What do you think might happen? Well, I think we're going to get an error message. Try to think about what you might do to prevent that in the future. Input validation, one of your most popular tasks as a programmer. Okay, I think that's good. Let's recap really quickly. Basically, we use three different parts here. We've got the input command, which lets us get in input from the user. That input is always in the form of a string. If you expect it to be a number, we need to convert it, and that's where the float function comes in. We do just a little bit of multiplication and use a good old reliable print statement to get that final value sent to the screen for the user to see their results. All right, I think that went pretty well, and that's the end of my demo. One take wonder. Thanks a bunch for tuning in. See you around.